All right, so you've sent us a bunch of economic data, and it's honestly a little scary.
Yeah.
Some serious red flags.
Yeah. It really is kind of rippling out to and affecting everyone from
Hmm.
individuals who are trying to find jobs to companies that are trying to stay afloat.
Absolutely. And to help us break this down, we're diving deep into a video by Meet Kevin, the financial analyst.
Hmm.
He doesn't really sugarcoat things, so we're going to break it down and try to figure out what you could do to prepare yourself.
Exactly. Knowledge is power, especially with your finances.
Okay, let's start with the elephant in the room, the job market. Meet Kevin points to a surge in continuing jobless claims. We're seeing numbers we haven't seen since the pandemic. So for those who might not know what continuing claims are,
Right.
continuing claims are the number of people who are still receiving unemployment benefits week after week.
Right.
So a spike in this number means people are having a harder time finding new jobs.
And on top of that, we're seeing twice as many job applicants per position compared to before the pandemic.
Oh, wow. So there's
That's a lot of competition.
more competition for the same jobs?
Yeah.
That's got to be putting a lot of stress on people
Absolutely.
and families.
Yeah, that leads to longer periods of unemployment. It's a very difficult thing.
Yeah, so Meet Kevin highlights the specific case. Nissan, with 134,000 employees, this automotive giant
It's a big one.
is on the brink of collapse. He says they have about 12 to 14 months to figure things out.
Oh,
I mean, a company that size going under would be
huge. Yeah.
catastrophic. Lots of jobs, lost disruptions to supply chains, consumer confidence. It would just be crazy what led them to this point.
Well, they're facing this triple threat of problems. They have dwindling cash reserves, their debt is mounting, and they're relying heavily on sales in the US and China. And those markets are showing signs of weakness.
Yeah, and Meet Kevin specifically called out their sales finance receivables, basically the loans that they've given to car buyers. He called them toxic auto loans. So what does that mean, and why should we care?
Yeah, so it basically means that they're holding all of this debt and it's getting riskier. As the economy weakens, people face financial strain. They might not be able to keep up with these car payments. And that leaves Nissan with this mountain of bad debt and really hurts their financial stability.
So it's a domino effect.
Yeah.
A weak economy leads to defaults on loans, which puts pressure on companies, especially if they're carrying all this debt.
Exactly.
So to get out of this mess, Nissan is looking for an anchor investor.
Right.
So basically someone to save them.
Someone to swoop in. Yeah. A knight in shining armor.
That means giving up some control, right?
Exactly. It could dilute the existing shareholders' stakes.
So it's a huge gamble for them, and the outcome is going to have a big impact on their employees and investors, and I imagine the wider economy as well.
Of course, it's a ripple effect, you know?
So this is like a slow-motion train wreck. You know
Yeah.
what's coming. And you just can't look away if Nissan, a giant like this, is struggling this much.
Yeah.
What does that say about the rest of the auto industry?
Yeah, it's not looking good. Nissan's not alone. We've got
I-
Volkswagen having their fair share of problems. There's talks of layoffs, salary cuts, factory closures.
Yeah, it's a big storm coming.
Yeah.
And it's not just impacting one or two companies, it's hitting the entire industry.
And it's not just corporate struggles. We also have to consider politics. Meet Kevin brought up Donald Trump's threat to slap a 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico.
Yeah, companies like GM would be in trouble. They have such a huge presence in those countries.
Yeah.
I'm a little confused, though. Didn't Trump champion that United States, Mexico, Canada alliance trade deal?
Right.
Wasn't that all about encouraging companies to move production to those countries?
You're absolutely right. It seems like a complete reversal, but it seems like Trump is using these tariffs as leverage.
Okay.
In his negotiations with Mexico, he's concerned about border security and the flow of fentanyl into the U.S.
I see.
So by threatening these tariffs, he's pressuring the Mexican government.
And it sounds like it's working. Meet Kevin said that the Mexican president pledged to curb border crossings.
Yeah, it shows how economic policy can be used to achieve political goals.
Yeah, it's all connected.
Right, the global economy is all interconnected actions in one country can have a huge impact on others.
Okay, so we've got job market worries, major corporations on the edge, and political maneuvering with potential economic consequences. It's a lot to digest. So let's shift gears and talk about what this means for you, the listener. After all, you brought us these sources because you're trying to figure out how to navigate this uncertainty.
Absolutely. And that's where it gets really interesting. It's one thing to understand the big picture, but how do you apply that to your own financial decisions?
So where do we even begin?
Mm.
Meet Kevin talked about gold and Bitcoin as indicators of inflation and risk. He said gold prices have cooled down recently, which suggests that inflation fears might be easing. but Bitcoin has been pretty flat. What do you make of these signals?
Well, they're worth considering, but it's important to remember they're just two pieces of a very complex puzzle.
Right.
They can give you some insight into investor sentiment, but you need to look at a wider range of indicators.
So what are the key things to watch out for? What are the warning signs?
Keep a close eye on the upcoming jobs reports, the ones due on December 6th and January 10th. Those will give us a better picture of the labor market and some clues about a possible recession.
And what about the revisions to the November jobs report? Why is that important? I mean, isn't that old news?
Not necessarily. The initial report showed weak job growth, only 14,000 jobs added.
Okay.
If that number is revised downwards, it would be a sign that the labor market is slowing down and could drag the economy with it.
So a downward revision is bad news? What if it's revised upwards?
That would be great.
Okay.
It would mean the economy is stronger than we think, a glimmer of hope.
So a lot depends on these jobs reports.
Yeah, and while we wait, remember that knowledge is power in situations like this.
Right.
The more you understand about the economy, the better decisions you can make about your finances. We're living in a time of rapid change, so you need to be adaptable.
It's easy to get caught up in all the bad news, but you're right. Knowledge and adaptability are key. I think Kevin would agree. He spent a lot of time in his video promoting his Trumponomics course, which claims to help people make a ton of money in 2025 under a potential second Trump presidency.
He's a good marketer.
Yeah.
And while we're not endorsing any products or services, I think it highlights an important point. Understanding how economic and political trends impact your finances is valuable no matter who's in office.
I agree. That's a great takeaway. So we've covered a lot. Job market fears, the struggles of corporations like Nissan government actions, political maneuvering on trade, and even some investment strategies.
You've only scratched the surface, though.
Right.
The economy is complex. There's always more to learn.
It's like peeling an onion. The more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know.
Yeah.
So with all these warning signs, what can our listener do to protect themselves and maybe even find opportunities?
Yeah, it feels like we're on shaky ground here. So how can they steady themselves and maybe even find some solid footing in all this mess?
Well, we can't offer specific financial advice, but there are some basic principles that can help.
Okay, so like a compass to guide them.
Exactly. And the first point on that compass is stay informed.
Don't just read the headlines. Really dig in, find reliable sources of economic news and analysis, and try to understand how those things could impact your personal finances.
Yeah, but that can be overwhelming, right? It's like drinking from a fire hose sometimes.
It absolutely can be, and that's where the second point comes in.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to ask for help from qualified financial professionals. Think of them as a guide.
Right.
To help you navigate this complex landscape. They can help you assess your situation, identify risks and opportunities you might not even see, and come up with a plan to achieve your financial goals.
So stay informed, find a guide, and what else?
The third point is don't get caught up in the negativity.
Right.
It's easy to focus on the bad news, especially with all these headlines about recessions and companies collapsing.
Yeah.
But remember, there are always opportunities, even in tough times.
Like one door closes, another one opens.
Exactly. And sometimes during big changes, those new doors can lead to exciting new paths. So, if one industry is shrinking, another one might be growing. The key is to stay adaptable and be open to new things.
So stay informed, get advice, and look for new opportunities. Sounds like a plan.
It is. And remember, taking control of your finances is a journey, not a one-time thing.
Right.
You need to keep learning, adapting, and making smart decisions, even when things are uncertain.
Well said. Uncertainty might be all around us, but with the right knowledge and a proactive approach, you can navigate these changes and maybe even find yourself doing well in all this chaos.
I like that. And we hope this deep dive has given you some insights and maybe even sparked some ideas.
And remember, keep exploring, keep learning, and we'll be here to help you make sense of it all. Until next time.